Summary: The Lonely Londoners by Selvon. The Lonely Londoners doesn't have a clear plot. Instead, it shows how a group of West Indian immigrants lived in London in the 1950s through a number of short stories that are only loosely linked. In a style called episodic, the unnamed narrator mostly tells the story of Moses, a man from Trinidad who moved to London about 6 years ago. He works at night and goes to Waterloo Station to meet Galahad, a young guy from Trinidad who is coming to London for the first time. A common friend has asked Moses to help Galahad get settled, even though the two men have never met. While Moses waits for Galahad to come, he runs into a Jamaican friend called Talroy, who is at the station to pick up his mother. Moses is amazed that Talroy has saved enough money to bring her over from Jamaica. He can't understand how he could save so much money with his small paychecks. As they wait, a British reporter comes up to Moses and asks him why so many people from Jamaica moved to England. He thinks Moses is Jamaican, but he is actually British. But as Moses answers, the reporter turns to talk to Talroy's family, who are all running out of the train at the same time. Talroy is surprised because he thought only his mother would come. Instead, his Aunt Tonti and his cousins Louis and Agnes and their 2 children have come. He complains about this and asks his mother why she brought so many people, but she and his aunt scold him for not being happy for his family, and they don't listen to him when he says there isn't enough money or room for everyone. Moses is shocked to see Galahad standing on the platform wearing nothing but an old gray tropical suit. Even worse, he doesn't have any bags with him. Moses asks Galahad if he's cold. Galahad says that he doesn't think it's that cold and that he didn't bring any bags because he'll just buy new things once he starts working. Moses thinks Galahad is stubborn and naive because of how positive he is. He often tells Galahad to take it easy when he asks excitedly about life in London. This is how the two men get to know each other on the way from Waterloo to Moses's small flat, where they have dinner and Moses can finally rest and talk about his life in Trinidad. Galahad tells Moses the next morning that he respects his advice but would rather find things out on his own. Galahad goes to London by himself, determined to find his way to the job office so he can get a job. On his way, though, he quickly loses his way and starts to worry that he won't remember how to get back to Moses's. Moses, who had seen this coming, follows Galahad and shows up just as the young man starts to worry. Galahad is grateful for his new friend's advice, so he tells Moses that he needs help. The two men then go to the job office, which the narrator describes as a place where a lot of men go to look for work and get money from the welfare state when they're not working. As Moses and Galahad wait in line, Moses tells Galahad that many immigrants choose to depend on government aid as their only source of income. This is something Moses dislikes because he thinks it makes it harder for other immigrants who just want to work honest jobs. Galahad agrees with this point of view, so he chooses not to rely on welfare alone. At this point, the narrator talks about Captain, a Nigerian immigrant whom Moses has known since he first moved to London. Captain, also known as Cap, went to England to study law at first, but he soon got caught up in city life and spent all of his father's money on woman and cigarette. So, his father finally stopped giving him money, so Cap started borrowing from his friends and lovers. When Cap has nowhere to stay, he befriends white women, moves in with them, and spends their money, all while dating other women. The storyteller tells a story about a time when Cap dated an Austrian woman and a German woman at the same time. Both of them helped him stay alive financially, which shows how Cap often takes advantage of people's kindness. At one point, Cap borrowed £8 from the German woman. When she came after him to get the money back, he stole a watch from his English girlfriend, took it to a pawn shop, and sold it for money. After giving a short description of Cap's character, the narrator says that Galahad meets a lot of interesting people in his first few days in London. Bart is one of these people. He is a black immigrant with light skin who tries to make people think he is Latino and avoids giving money to friends at all costs. Bart has a clerical job and clings to it like gold because he doesn't want to work in a factory. He's also worried about how many new people are moving to London, because he thinks they'll make things hard in Britain for him. In the same way, he doesn't like being seen with people who look too black. When he falls in love with a white woman named Beatrice, he chooses to ask her father for her hand in marriage. However, when he meets her father, he is yelled out of the house. Still, they keep going out until one day Beatrice stops showing up. Bart is afraid he'll never be able to date a white woman again, so he searches the city for her. He always asks his friends if they've seen her, and he even takes a job as a doorman at a bar she goes to in hopes of seeing her there. One night, while working with Talroy's cousin Louis, Moses chooses to have a little fun with him by telling him that women often sleep with other men while their husbands are working the night shift. Louis tells his boss he has a headache because he is very worried. He then runs home and beats Agnes, even though she is alone. Unfortunately, this doesn't solve the problem. He keeps beating her up and accusing her of cheating on him until she finally leaves, and not even Tonti will tell him where she went. As the story goes on in this episodic, character-driven way, the narrator thinks about how London has helped immigrants. He or she points out that racism coexists with a sense of entrepreneurship and tokenization, as shown by the white people who open businesses that serve the immigrant population. One of these places is a suit store that is especially nice to black people. It asks each customer to tell his friends to come into the store, where they will be given free cigarettes. In the same way, a certain shopkeeper stocks his store with West Indian foods that are hard to find anywhere else in London. Tonti is very happy about this, and she goes to the shop often. In fact, the food shop is in the small part of Tonti's city where she feels most at home. The storyteller says that the old woman lives like she's in a small town in the middle of a huge city because she never leaves her local neighborhood. Still, she knows how public transportation works and can tell her guests with confidence which line they took to get to her house. One day, she finally goes somewhere outside of her small neighborhood. This happens when Tolori's mom takes the cupboard key to work by mistake, causing Tonti to take both the underground train and a double-decker bus. The narrator says, now nobody could tell her she couldn't take the bus or tube in London. As Galahad spends more and more time in London, he falls in love with its beauty and the way it makes him feel high. He really likes to go to Piccadilly Circus and look at the lights there. When he says good evening to a white woman and her child while wearing his best clothes and enjoying the city, the child yells, "Mummy, look at that black man." The mother quickly says, "You mustn't say that, dear." Galahad still bends down and gives the child a kind pat on the cheek, but the child pulls away and starts to cry. "What a sweet child," he says next. "What are you called?" Because she doesn't like how close he is, the mother slowly moves away. The next day, Galahad looks at his hand and thinks that his problems are all because of the color of his skin. In the last part of the book, Selvon learns more about how black and white people in London get along with each other. This often comes out in the emotional and sexual situations that the narrator talks about. In a 9-page stream of consciousness line, the narrator talks about Hyde Park in the summer, when people of all races go there to find sexual partners. One summer day, a white man comes up to Moses in the park. The stranger tells Moses, "You are just the man I've been looking for." He then takes Moses to a blonde woman and offers Moses money to go with the woman while he watches. Moses agrees to the offer. During the summer, people often meet up like this in the park, which may be why both the narrator and Moses romanticize London in the summer. In fact, it seems that summer is so appealing that people like Moses are ready to go through harsh winters with almost no heat and very little food, always wondering if they should go back to their home countries, where life is better and easier. At the end of the book, the narrator reflects on how people in London put up with the challenges of daily life in order to experience the transitory delights that the city has to offer and to be able to boast that they lived at the center of the world.
About the author. Sam Selvon was born to Indian parents in Trinidad in 1923. He was the sixth of 7 kids. When he was only 15, he started working for the Royal Naval Reserve after going to school in his hometown of San Fernando. After working for the Reserve for 5 years as a radio operator, he moved to Port of Spain and became a reporter and sometimes a creative writer for the Trinidad Guardian. He started writing seriously when he was a reporter for a newspaper, though he often used fake names. In the 1950s, he moved to London and got a job as a clerk at the Indian Embassy. In his free time, he wrote songs and short stories that were later published in British magazines. Shortly after he moved to England in 1952, he released his first book, A Brighter Sunday. His best-known work, The Lonely Londoners, came out 4 years later. He wrote 13 books and 2 sets of plays over the course of his work. He was also married twice, and between those 2 marriages, he had 4 children. He migrated to Canada in the 1970s and died aged 70.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.